Right, so Minister of Sport, Arts and Culture, Zizi Kodwa, is today launching Freedom Month. This month commemorates the first democratic elections held in South Africa on the 27th of April, 1994. These were the first post-apartheid national elections to be held in South Africa where anyone could vote regardless of race. This year, Freedom Month takes place under the theme Consolidating and Safeguarding Our Democratic Gains. Right, for this discussion, we're joined via Zoom by Dr. Paul Kariuki, the Executive Director of the Democracy Development Program. A very good afternoon to you, Dr. Paul. Thank you for your time here on the SABC.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, and good afternoon to our viewers.
Let's contextualize this conversation. We are speaking about democratic gains, which forms part of the theme for this year in South Africa. Perhaps you can explain what democracy actually entails. I think fundamental to the restoration of democracy is in fact a correct understanding of what it is.
I believe so. And I think on a very, very basic level, when we talk about democracy, we're talking about a situation where citizens are given an opportunity to engage in all public life without any restrictions, where they're able to voice out their concerns, share their opinions, share their views, and be able to engage with their leaders at the same time, holding them accountable for their decisions and their actions. And in broadest terms, it allows everyone's participation in the public life of their country, of their society, without any inhibitions. And it becomes threatened when such freedoms of freedom of expression and engagement and other freedoms that are constitutionally enshrined become restrictive or get restricted. Then it becomes a problem for our society.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into what the definition of freedom then entails for South Africans, particularly as you shine a spotlight on Freedom Day come the 27th of April. And, I think it's important to look at areas of concern. We need to look at the strides that have been taken, but also some of the challenges. We saw that the liberation struggle was fought so that all could be free. But what does freedom really mean?
Very loaded concept to say. It cannot be defined literally linearly from just one, perspective. But in the context of what we're talking about as a people, in this context of Freedom Day, we're talking about where every citizen has a right to participate in the public development of our nation, at the same time also contribute to its well-being towards a socially just society with no restrictions, and especially where we have to encourage the observance of the rule of law and good governance. And so therefore our freedoms are enshrined within the Constitution to the extent that they allow equal participation, equal access, and equal development for everyone. However, we must understand that this is within the confines of the law and the confines of not infringing in other people's rights and their freedoms too, so that we can be able to create a socially balanced society where we promote equal acceptability for everyone, irrespective of their religion, irrespective of their culture, or their language and their socioeconomic status, to mention a few.
Let's delve into some of those concepts. You speak about equality, equity, inclusivity. That is not a reality for, many South Africans, perhaps almost 30 years into democracy. We do know that for rights to have meaning, everyone should have access to claiming them. And this is oftentimes also, this is actually enforced through the criminal justice system. Is justice always granted? No, that's not the case. So I wonder, whilst we look at the theme of consolidating and safeguarding our democratic gains of freedom, perhaps we could explore what's needed to get back on track. How do we begin to safeguard these rights?
Again, that's a very important question to ponder about because of the dimensions that our current situation in the country presents to us. First, we have the process of building our nation, which is a nation building, which is itself is a process that does not happen overnight, where everyone is in the country expected to play their role towards ensuring that we promote the values of our Constitution, which unify us as a people and give us an identity as citizens. That's a nation-building process. The social cohesion process also is another process by itself that also doesn't happen overnight. And the two work together because we want to create a society where everyone is included, and not just by words, but by actions and by their lived experiences. So when we understand the context around those two concepts, then you will understand why there is a significant interest from all quarters of our society to not only just consolidate the gains of our democracy, but at the same time also safeguard them from the threats that create divisiveness in our society. One of the main, threats to our social cohesion or consolidating our democratic gains is our increasing levels of inequality. As we know that South Africa is one of the countries around the world with the highest Gini coefficient of 63. It cannot be possible to have a socially stable society when the disparities, economic disparities between peoples are really at these levels that we're talking about right now. So we need to, for us to consolidate the gains of our democracy, we need to address the threat of poverty. We need to address the threat of unemployment. And also we need to threat situations that create a politically unstable society, which is very important at this stage because our country is still undergoing different transitions, forms of transitions, socioeconomically and even politically. And now as we head even into 2024 elections, we're going to see a lot of possible scenarios that may want to threaten our political stability as a nation because of the growing inequalities and unemployment and poverty. So for us to be able to really move forward in creating a society that these democratic gains are safeguarded, we need to focus on addressing these threats, the triple challenges, and meaningfully so that the lived experiences of what a democracy looks like will be realized by everyone, irrespective of their socioeconomic statuses. And secondly, really focus on economic growth and really create opportunities for meaningful access for everyone across the various stratas of our society. Of course, encouraging continuous engagement on the discussions that really will help our country to move beyond the impediments that we've seen that constantly push our nation to moments of anxiety and worrisome.
Dr. Paul, I mean, it's such a broad discussion, and this is definitely a conversation starter, perhaps as we delve into more themes a little bit more in depth throughout the month. You've spoken about quite a few themes, and, I wonder, as we look at the current state of South Africa, perhaps where we're headed. The issue of violence has become part of people's lives. Many people, won't experience freedom in their lifetime. Women, minorities, minority groups will not stop fearing sexual violence. And I wonder, how we can begin to reimagine what the social contract should look like so that we can, prosper, move forward, and ensure that equality, equity, inclusivity is achieved.
I think it will begin by, first of all, ensuring that the access opportunities available and created by our government and our leaders in different spaces across the stratas of governance is made possible for everyone, irrespective of where they come from, irrespective of their socioeconomic status, irrespective of their political affiliations and ideologies, all those things that really become, so to speak, gatekeeping from accessing opportunities must be dealt with and be removed, actually, so that everyone has an access, an equal opportunity to access whatever economic opportunities that are available there. Because as we said, we're saying that we are addressing the first and foremost serious threat to consolidating our democratic gains is dealing with inequalities and poverty. The second thing, of course, is to create an enabling environment where conversations within society and different communities and peoples are encouraged in a way that they are meaningful to move our nation beyond the difficulties of our apartheid past. As we know, race is a big issue in this country, for example. As you mentioned, also crime. We need to get to a place where we can combat these difficult questions that can help us to move beyond the stuckness sometimes that we experience as a society, and which creates a sense of hopelessness. I believe these issues can be tackled and be, their impact be lessened, maybe not be removed immediately because they've been created over the years, but at least their impact be lessened. If we talk about the issue of crime, it is we've heard many times from our leaders that crime begins in communities where people know each other, people know who's doing what within their communities. So it needs to start that conversations there, where we promote active citizenship in a sense that we as citizens at the community level, at our neighborhood level, hold each other accountable. If we know there are people who are, encouraging activities that threaten our freedoms and threaten our cohesiveness and threaten our peace, then we should be able to be, bold enough to create a space where we can say this is what's happening, and we know who is doing this, and we can be able to report them to the authorities and engage with the authorities the closest to our spheres, so that we can be able to hold each other accountable, at the same time also work towards solution promotion rather than the opposite.
No, absolutely. I think it's also about addressing systemic issues until we go to the root cause. We're just going to, want us to question whether we're just rearranging the chairs on the decks of the Titanic, or in fact we're going to bring about meaningful change. Strides have been taken, but we'll leave the conversation there for now. Thank you for your time here on the SABC.